Yani. Ako na po.
Clase imeanza kweli?
I'm on now. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. You are on, eh? So is it simple? Hello.
Hello to Doctor.
Good morning.
Good morning to.
Good morning too.
Yeah. So we are beginning the lesson now.
Yes.
Yeah. You remember last week I did not have some moment with you.
Yes.
But I wish to be with you now to compensate for last week's discussion. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes, new.
So I want us to look at a very interesting topic today.
Yes.
Nationalism and development. Now, nationalism and development. Discuss about when you talk about nationalism, this is a very amorphous area of discussion because we are looking at two issues here. We are looking at what we call nationalism and
Mimi niko na data yangu iko below 2 MB.
Kuna wifi.
hello.
Hii wifi haishi.
Sasa ebu weka wifi.
Hello.
Yes.
A lot of noise.
There is a lot of noise.
Yeah? Can you switch off your mic?
Get the phone stack.
Hello. Hello. So are you getting me now?
We are getting.
So I want us to look at nationalism and national development, which is a very critical area of our discussion. And then, you know, when you talk about nationalism, hello.
Just mute these guys. Mute them.
Now, so when you talk about nationalism, now, so I hope everybody is with me right now.
Yes.
Some people are making a lot of noise. We are not getting you.
This very pertinent issue on nationalism, because this is a very critical area in our discussion. Now, so that You talk about nationalism. You know, nationalism tends to settle for nothing short of independence and self-determination. Now, you remember during the pre-colonial period, you know, African states used to have their own way of governance. And when independence emerged in Africa, so there was a lot of domination by the Western powers in African society. And then Africa underwent a very precarious period in their lives. And then there was now this guest for what we call, you know, independence. So that when we talk about nationalism, you know, we are just talking of about independence. We are just talking about independence, where you tend to display what you call self-determination, because every society in Africa wanted to have that independence of their own. They wanted to have their own governance. They wanted to establish their own governments. So that is why it is very critical to understand that nationalism played a very important role in as far as African society was concerned. So that what is also very important here is that, you know, when we talk about nationalism, we are talking about being passionate, love for one's nation. You know, because you cannot claim to be an independent state if you do not have that a passionate association with your nation. So if you look at most of the African society, they had developed that essence of aspects of that very critical love towards their nation. And you know, if you have these aspects of love, you know, hiyo kupenda nchi yako, you will be able to protect this nation. You will be able to defend your nation. You will be able to defend the national resources. Now, like for example, if you look at most of the African states, you know, most of these aspects are missing out. Because one, do we protect our nation? Two, do we defend our nation? And three, do we defend our resources? Because when you look at most of the African states, there is a lot of, you know, corruption has become a household phenomenon. So how do we address this problem? So that when we talk about nationalism, we need to have that total submergence into appreciating your nation by protecting it, by defending it, and protecting the national resources. Like now, look at the way Kenyans behave. I know you are young men and women. One time you want to get a job. And I believe the moment you are employed, the first thing you want to do is to ensure that you buy a very big Prado. Now, my question is,
resolving this present problem?
Ways of resolving jumbo, shaunda,
Uma mic wewe.
Okay, place na so inaleta. Ni two words. One is zote zinaanza saa ngapi? Kama
Unaanza sana.
Not even.
Oya, hii class imeisha ama aje?
Ni hadi kesho. Oya. Tarehe ndio imeisha. Class ni kesho.
Kesho ni wewe.
hiyo link iko hapo hivi.
Hey.
Buni anaanza
Be cultural. Alafu unasema DJ tupate. Unawapatia
Siri ya mambo.
Nakupenda, nakulombo tu.
Sasa tumekuja class.
kuna rabutofa tumekuja
class.
wewe. Huyu jamaa anasema anapenda unapenda mpaka majini. Wanyama pori. Bana anapenda
bora iko naye.
lakini wacha kula wanyama pori bana majini kuna jini fulani hapo lakini mtafute keje. Hii mambo ya soku benches sitaki. Hiyo ni Johnny hizo. Wewe alafu my ladies majini ongeni.
Unaona kazi.
Nasikia kienyeji imepata help.
Hebu tuonyeshe game zinaanza saa ngapi kwanza.
Wewe bana wewe. Albert wacha kwenda soku benches wewe.
Kwani soku benches zilikuwa ni ya nini bafu?
Sasa huko umeenda
na kwa hivyo ana 2.5 bao zinafaa kufika kama
Class imeisha. Kwani tena mnaongea sana hivi bwana?
Niambia jana nilipanga
Mshai.
Astiko.
Yapata kitu ya kuongelea.
Sauti cha practice.
Senior teacher.
Mama Miriam.
Sharon Mungoma, wacha ujinga. Lakini maladies mko na sauti tamu, shida tu ni sura.
Shida ni
Charo.
Wanaume mdanganya na sauti zao mademu. Tutanene nao.
Hao ni wanyama.
Sana na majini nyinyi.
Wale watu mnaongea kweli na heshima.
So we think that nationalism. Yeah, and I want us I want us to continue. Hello, class. I want us to continue with this discussion. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are able now to continue.
Hello.
Having had some mishaps on our online. I think there was some power problems. Now, so we were talking about nationalism in Africa. So whenever we see that our resources are actually being wasted, it actually compromises with our passionate for this particular nation called Africa, because we not only build Africa by only depending upon the West for survival, but you need also to have that way of actually developing this continent per se without even depending so much on the external support. Now, so there is also in a nation, for a nation to develop, there is need to have what we call resource distribution. We need to share resources on equal basis. So we need to have that essence of a fair distribution of resources. Now, so look at Africa, basically. There is a very serious and skewed resource distribution because of a selfish interest of our leaders. Now, because the question is, for how long will Africa be fixated with all these challenges, time in, time out? So we need to come up with a very serious solution so that we can be able to address the problem of resources in Africa. Now, people should have enough to invest. Now, you cannot talk of national development. You cannot talk of any growth of economic development. And until, people and the government to develop that essence of investment. So we need to invest. Like for example, if you study the lifestyles of many African population, we have that problem of the poor mechanisms of investment. We don't invest well. So that the only way to realize some economic growth in any African society is to ensure that there is some aspects of investment. So we need to invest in this continent, and that's why, if you look at West, for example, West is so much developed because of they really take care of their resources. They really protect their resources. So, but the question in Africa is, what is the challenge that we have? So there is need to have that environment. We need to create an environment where everybody is so passionate on ensuring that we develop this very beautiful continent called Africa. You are born in Africa. You'll do what it appertains to your life in Africa. You'll be buried in Africa, and Africa will be you, and you will be Africa. So there is no way we can escape Africa. However much you want to seek greener pastures abroad, you want to go to a developed country because you have failed to develop your own country. Why is it that we have en masse exodus to Europe, to Middle East, where people have actually taken care of their resources while you are misusing yours? Wewe unataka nani akutengenezee mali? So that's the question we need to interrogate as Africans. The rise of nationalism did not start in Africa at the time of independence. Nationalism began some way back, even before Africa was subjected to, in the mid of the colonial era in Africa. That is when nationalism began to peak and to have roots in Africa. But nationalism never began in Africa. It began in Europe. And it is through Europe that we were now able to agitate for our own independence. Now, when Europeans came to Africa, with one particular issue in their mind. They wanted resources. Apart from natural resources, they wanted human resource. And they really achieved what they want. Now, so what happened is now, when the Europeans now decided to leave Africa, because I don't think Europeans left Africa because they wanted to leave Africa, but they felt it was their time to leave. So we have noted that Europeans came to Africa looking for raw materials to feed their industry, while we are just sitting back. You remember during the time of Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire by then. Zaire is known to be one of the countries in Africa with enormous resources. But look at what is happening. Look at the deaths that we have experienced in Congo. Why? Why? It's because we tend not to develop that nationalistic, we don't develop that nationalistic sense in our blood. We don't have that love for our nation. We don't have that love for our continent. That is why Africa is so dilapidated in terms of resources. Yeah, so that, ladies and gentlemen, this has already been demonstrated by Prussian. In 1871, where they defeated and occupied France. You see, when we talk of nationalism, nationalism is not an African phenomenon. It just began in Europe. Because, you look at the Alsace and the Lorraine, the allies in Europe, the struggle for power in Europe, colonialism in Europe. Colonialism not only began in Africa, but it was also so rampant in Europe. But when Europeans gained their independence through nationalism, they actually knew what they wanted, and that's why they are never the same again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why Europe is so developed is because they protect their interest. They protect their resources. They defend their boundaries. And then in Africa, Africa inakaa kama uwanja wa vujo. Anybody comes to Africa, anybody wakes up, you want to steal resources, you want to misappropriate resources. We don't care about the welfare of others. And then we want to go to Europe, surely. That is one of the unfortunate things that should actually be addressed in Africa. I believe each one of you, no sooner do you accomplish your studies than you want to go to Europe. Wewe unataka uende mahali nani alikutengenezea? Why do you want to partake on other people's development? So that's why when Europeans came to Africa, they created colonies, which at independence became nation states. So most of these colonies that were created by Europeans now became later on what we call the nation states in Africa. And that is why Africa continent is a byproduct of the colonial legacy. Colonies like Kenya, for example, were products of European nationalism. Why? They set up to be exploited after pre-colonial nations had been destroyed. It's at that time is so beating. To see a very lucrative continent, very rich continent, with rich human resource, with plenty of resources, but we misuse them. We misuse these resources. I don't know whether corruption is a genetic makeup in Africa's blood. I don't know what we should do. Now, so the small nations could not be profitably exploited, so they had to be federated into huge ones. Sometimes when Europeans came to Africa, there were some small nation states that were not profitable to them, that were not strategic to these Europeans. So they normally consolidated them so that they could make them a very big nation state. But as we are aware, one of the reasons which brought about nationalism in Africa was exploitation. Europeans did not come to Africa for the purposes of evangelization. Because not in many words, if you look at Africa, Africa is religious, notoriously religious, because we miss the concept. Now, my question at times is, what could have happened if Europeans could not be in Africa? Could we not go to heaven because we don't understand the heavenly issues? So this was a Western creation. Religion is a Western creation. And that is why when you look at the World War II, for example, it provided a means. It was one way of actually making Africans be aware that, You know, if you need liberation, you know, liberation cuts across all human beings. And there is that equality in terms of God's creation. We are all equal. And this, you know, and that is why Africans got exposed and military training, and they wanted, and what these Africans wanted was to ensure that they ended what we call European exploitative nature in Africa. Now my question is, so who actually facilitates this exploitation in Africa, if not the Africans themselves? So those are some of the issues that we need to interrogate. Those are some of the issues we need to actually try to establish so that we can find an amicable ground where we can advocate and really enjoy this very beautiful continent. You know, the exploitative nature of Europeans in Africa, ranging from resources to manpower, was actually a climax. Because when Europeans came to Africa, they wanted just but very cheap labor. That was all they wanted. It was the nationalistic feeling which united different people in a colony like Kenya with diverse societies to fight for their freedom. Because when you look at Kenya, for example, look at the economies like Tanzania with 160 ethnic groups. How do we develop an economy? How do we develop a country when tribalism is the order of the day? Because in Kenya, you know, for one to get a job, your name will explain who you are so that you can be able to secure a job. I mean, where are we moving? Where are we moving? And then when you want to go to Europe, you want to be considered for the job. And they don't care where you come from. They don't care about your race. But in Africa, we care about our ethnic cocoons, so that everything has been ethnicized. So ladies and gentlemen, it's high time we need to reflect. We need to have a reflection on how we can change the political landscape of Africa. And then when you talk about nationalism and nationalistic movements in Africa, so there arose now a lot of political movements in Africa. And these movements were actually the ones that made Africa to gain independence. But my question sometimes is, did we gain independence because we struggled so much? Did Europeans went out of Africa because we pushed them out of Africa? I don't think so. I think Europeans felt that it was their high time to leave Africa. And here we are being left alone. And then we claim that we have fought for independence in Africa. Of course, I acknowledge that we fought for independence, but what is the need of having independence when we are suffering? Look at the situations now in arid regions in Africa. People are dying because of hunger, and yet we have governments. Animals are dying, and yet we have governments. Our government officials are only dining in big hotels. I mean, how do you discuss a crisis in a place like Northeastern in Intercontinental Hotel? You go to Serena Hotel to discuss how people are suffering. That is being selfish. That is being selfish. How do we come out of this crisis in Africa? where people want to accumulate resources. Hii mali utachukua wapi? I've seen many presidents in Africa die. I've seen many prominent personalities in Africa die. They have never even picked even a toothpick to the next wall. Tunawazika tu na wapepi chochote. We buried the likes of Idi Amin. We buried Mobutu, who was owning the entire Congo. He went with nothing. Hii mali yote ni ya nini jameni? That's why I'm also appealing to young men. I know the worst group is now the youngest population, because the young generation. Because no sooner did they enter to power, to positions, to employment, than they want to be very rich. People are dying. Wash, because you want to be rich. Alafu, when you become so rich, so what? How do we develop this continent? But the nationalism expressed during the struggle for independence promised education for all, health for all, clean water for all. Now, my question is, now when you look at Africa, how many people are educated? Look at the system of education that we have in Africa. Is it an education for empowerment or education for just semi-skilled manpower? As we are talking now, they are now trying to embrace what we call the curriculum-based CPC. I mean, who came up with this idea? Was it taken to public participation? Now, tell me of the rich men and women in this country who have taken their kids for this CPC program. You know, you find them enrolling their children in these very lucrative schools, posh schools. Peponi School, Sunshine. Nafikiri maskini wanasoma huko. And do you think the programs they are doing in CPC? They are doing in the national programs. Programs which prepare them for leadership, programs which prepare them for good jobs in the world, programs which empower them to become rich. And then we are just given some very funny programs here. You know, because, you know, when you train me to become a mason, and, you know, so somebody else is training daughter yake ako Peponi School, analipa milioni moja school fees per year. I mean, how do you expect to equate us with those things? Look at what is happening in the dry regions in Africa. And then you are talking of these programs. Like in Kenya, you are talking about CPC. Look at what is happening in Baringo. Look at what's happening in Northeastern. Watu wanapambania CPC ama njaa? And then we want to talk of nationalism. Surely, are we serious? So the nationalists had promised to see to it that the resources of the nation states could not be stolen. But what is happening in Africa now? People are stealing resources left, right, center. Muipe kapsa, waje waipe kapsa. And then the question is, so kishaiba, what benefit will it be to you? I mean, why? Now, like today, if you are given the whole of Bungoma town, so what will be the benefit to you? So itakufaidi nini? Na unakula chakula sahani moja. Not because I'm wanting the whole of the whole of Bungoma town. I should be able to eat a whole of sufuria of ugali. I mean, why? Why? You know, we are talking about Africa. We are talking about Africa. Are we nationalists now to defend our continent? So nationalists were so determined to protect their countries, even if it meant their death. Indeed, many died. How many people lost their lives in the struggle for independence in Africa? Look at the likes of Malawi. Look at the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, of Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. Where are they? They died fighting for this continent. But what has happened? Look at the group of leaders that we have. Very useless characters. Now, so that when you talk of African Union, what are they discussing in these platforms? Because if you look at the bodies like ICC, it was a body created for only Africa, because this is the bedrock of corruption. Yet, you know, after many years after independence in Africa, the picture is still no different. We have a situations where funds just disappear. Schools are started but never completed. I mean, where are we? The government now the government is now running up and down. They have been running up and down, trying to put up classrooms, CPC classrooms. Things are not working. Look at the procurement processes in these schools. Look at the corrupt deeds. It is so pity. What is wrong in Africa? So people stopped being loyal to the nation and became loyal to the corrupt and inefficient ruling regime. Do we, in Africa, do we give positions to people who deserve? Or we just give positions because we need to give them out? Those are some of the questions we need to raise. People choose to fill positions. They knew that they could only keep them if they please their masters, not due to hard work or service. Now look at employability in Africa. One is employed not because you qualify. Anyway, some qualify, but you know, most of the employment is attached to connections. Do you have a good father? With people chosen on the basis of their service to the regime, not to the nation state, the question of merit stop making sense. Look at those who are employed in military, police. People are committing suicide, not because they wanted these jobs, but because they were forced, because they had some very good connections, because they had resources, they had money to buy out their jobs. What will happen to that child in the hard-hit regions like northeastern, like semi-arid regions and arid regions? Huyo mtoto nani atamsaidia? So there was no need to work, since society would not get a hearing. Even if anybody complain, you complain. Why do this? Wanakuambia bwana, you are wasting time, unaweza fungwa. Now, look at the scenarios in Kenya. Many people have been found in Yala River. What is the problem? What is the problem? Why killing people? Now, so it was hoped that the nationalists would work hard for the development of their countries after independence, because the force used by colonizers had been removed. Hata wafatali mzungu wapange bwana, hata wangekaa. I wish the whites would have still stayed in Africa. Because the kind of the leaders, the group of leaders that we have in Africa is hell on earth. Hata wazungu wangekaa. Look at a place like Somalia. Look at a place like Southern Sudan. People are being killed. And yet we talk of developing an economy without regard to the welfare of the people. So nationalism is now a condition in which an individual's loyalty is directed only to the nation states. Because what is so interesting is that when you talk about nationalism, you question what was the need of having this independence in Africa? What was the need? What was the need? Na watu wanaumia. So no, if you look at the new rulers who took over leadership at the independence, were not men who would survive under democratic rule. Look at most of these leaders. They cannot. And they even seem not to be caring about what's happening in their countries. Above all, when people are fighting for power, they are enemies, not partners. Look at the elections in Africa. I just wonder whether we have any country in Africa where elections are not rigged. Wisi ya kura, mnaipa mnafanyia nini? So there is need to have like for example, if you look at the likes of Josiah Mwangi, JM, one says that he did not want to see Kenya as a country where there are 10 millionaires and 10 million paupers. What happened to just JM Karaoke? Just because he wanted to poke in a new idea in the minds of the leadership of the time, cost him his life. And waliuawa. Lakini wale waliuawa hawako sahi. We thank God sometimes because those who kill are also dead. So we are losing very good leaders like J.M. Kariuki. We have very good leaders like Tom Boy. Good leaders like Steve Biko of South Africa. Good leaders like Kwame Nkrumah. Good leaders like Dos Santos of Angola, who have fought for Africa's independence. Now, so if you look at the likes of J.M. Kariuki, he did not live long because of his views on nationalism. In a country where resources are misallocated, development cannot take place. Nepotism comes in, corruption rules the country. Yes, sir. When all this happen, hii mali wanachukua wapi? So wametuachia. Most of them are dead. Under such circumstances, you have a regime where power of government is controlled by one tribe, which is hostile to others, which means that resources cannot be attributed equally. The tragedy in Africa is what we call ethnicity. So that every ethnic group struggles to be in power. So that when one of your own is in power, it is like you are being given a ticket to eat and to loot. I don't know when we shall stop this pettiness of subscribing to tribalism. I wish to see a situation in Kenya where power will be on merry-go-round. So that today, if it is in Rift Valley, next time it goes to Nyanza province, next time power goes to Coast province, next time, so that everybody partakes. Kwani unafikiria hatuna viongozi kwa nchi areas? Look at what is happening in Uganda. Museveni from 1986 to date. Mtoto aliyesaliwa 86, karibu anakuwa marehemu. And he is still the president. I mean, what is that? And without equal distribution of resources, people are poor, so there can be never any development. How do you develop when your own citizens are poor? Poverty one. So that is why I wanted to tell each and every one of you, we are coming from different departments. We have those from BComs. We have those from STE. We have those from BCR. We have those from all BPM names. My big question is, what will happen when you get some employment? Will you still practice the same? So that is something we need to be very careful about. That is something we need to gather. That is something we need to protect so that everybody enjoys the resources in this country. And that is why we are failing in Africa is because, we have a course like history. History. Hello. 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 I don't understand. So it will record, eh? Hello. So that is why. So when we talk about nationalism and about national development, so this is a very important area that we need to concert our efforts to protect our African continent. Now, and then what is also very interesting that the society, to those in power, do not matter, but their people matter a lot. The people normally protected by their powers above, just like those who work for pre-colonial absolute kings who decided everything single-handedly. Now, I don't know at what period of in time will all these issues of for you to survive in power, you need to cling upon somebody. What happens when that person is dead? Who will support you? And how do we develop? These are people who became disappointed after independence. The question of godfatherism is what compromises Africa. After Europeans are being pushed out of Africa, Europeans who were accused of stealing African resources, the nationalists were shocked that the new leaders were even more worse. Now, if you look at the Europeans in Africa and the exploitative nature of Europeans, it is even so much better off than the group of leaders that we have in Africa, how corrupt these leaders are. So we need to be very careful on how we handle the situation in Africa. Now, so the resources could not be distributed and shared equally in an independent country. Why? Because it's only a few who call for the shots. It's only a few who control these resources. So we need to have a dialogue on how well and how better we can enhance nationalism and development generally in Africa, so that at one time, why don't we be a hub or a destination for everybody in the world to visit Africa? Because Africa is just about becoming you know, wanaita dunia mtimkafu, uwanja wa fujo. If you want to see chaos, come to Africa. If you want to see corruption, come to Africa. If you want to look at nepotism, come to Africa. If you want to look at tribalism, come to Africa. I mean, for round no. So the nationalists knew that they had liberated their countries to serve the people. That was the intention. But is the intention still alive? Do we still care? Hmm? Oh. So when these Europeans went out of Africa, you know, we accused them of exploiting our resources. Nationalists were shocked that the new leaders that we had were even much more worse than the group of leaders that we have now. So ladies and gentlemen, so it is high time that we need to establish a new way so that we can be able to address the new African continent and look at it from a positive perspective, so that we can be able to develop this very beautiful continent of ours. The nationalists knew that they were liberated. A nationalist leader is one who thinks of others instead of himself. But look at what's happening now. Do we care about others? Right now, people are dying. Mtu unaona anakufa na kwa njaa. And there is somebody somewhere. So we have many people who are dying because of hunger. And there are people who have resources and they don't care. Look at our counties. They have resources. Kazi yao tu ni wizi tu. Kuipaipa tu mali. Left, the right, center. Mtafanyia nini? So there are people normally who are protected by the powers above, just like those who worked for pre-colonial. You know, there should be a scenario in Africa where we work not because of protection from somewhere. Can we provide services purely based on your interest, not because of somebody who has actually tried to push you we need to change the political landscape in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, as I wind up, because I know we have the problem of bundles, I wish to, in a nutshell, appeal that we need to protect this continent. We need to display some sense of nationalism. We need to protect our resources. We need to guard against tribalism, or what we call ethnicity in Africa, so that we shall have an African continent where, you know, I not need to go to Europe in the name of going to make money. Watu wametengeneza nchi zao, unaenda kunyemelea. You know why do we behave like hyenas? Mtu ameunda mali yake, unaenda unataka kunyemelea. Si tuchunge yetu jamii. Why don't we protect our resources? So ladies and gentlemen, I wish to say that we end our lesson there for today, because I know the challenges that come alongside this program, because of sometimes we run out of bundles and economic challenges. So that next time we shall now be able to look at another very important topic. So I'll be dealing topic by topic. So let's end there for today. So, and I wish you the best. Let God bless you, and see you next time. Have a good day. Okay. Do I just end the Alafu kuna kitu imenishangaza. Kitu imenishangaza. Hii nini inaleta hii na kichoro sana choro. Yeah. Oh, aonyeshe imeisha. Naona shida wote tu wako kwa mnadha. So candles. Yeah, so wale wamesema